Good evening. Hello and welcome to this edition of Startup Central. I'm Nayantara Rai. This is the only show of its kind on Indian television dedicated, of course, to startups, innovation, technology, disruption, entrepreneurship. When you talk about disruption, one of the biggest that we have seen in recent times is of cryptocurrencies. And on today's episode of Startup Central, we will be focusing on that. But before that, just a quick reminder, ladies and gentlemen, like all the stakeholders from the ecosystem that we get on the show, this team of Startup Central thrives on constructive criticism. We want to hear from you on how to take our show to the next level. If you don't tell us, who's going to tell us? We love your emails. Keep writing in suc@etnow.tv. Tell us what to add to the show, remove from the show, mix things up. We just keep looking forward to your emails. So like I was telling you, today is a show that we will be focusing a bit on cryptocurrencies. Why are we doing that? Because we saw Elon Musk tweet earlier in the day, a couple of hours ago, and let me actually just read out his tweets for you, where he talks about, and he has pinned this tweet incidentally, where he says you can buy a Tesla with Bitcoin. Pay by Bitcoin capability available outside US later this year. Tesla is using only internal and open source software and operates Bitcoin nodes directly. Bitcoin paid to Tesla will be retained as a Bitcoin and not converted to fiat currency. Especially the last tweet that I just read out verbatim is a bit technical. We will be decoding that with our two guests who are joining us live right here on this edition of Startup Central. They're both of Indian origin, but they both are not currently in India. So let me introduce both my guests that are joining us right here. We're being joined by Akshay BD, investor and advisor to crypto startups. Last I checked, he was in Singapore after finishing a cruise and a holiday. We're also being joined by Shivan Sharma, co-founder at Yours. Yours is incidentally a Sequoia company. It's a vegan skincare brand which also ships to India. The founder is of Indian origin, like I said, lives in Singapore. But why are we getting him also? Because Yours accepts Bitcoins in payments. So he'll be fantastic to get some insights on how this is all done. Guys, welcome to Startup Central. Thanks so much for joining us. Akshay, I'll come to you first. Tesla and how it wants to go about with Bitcoins is not breaking news. You know, the SEC filing perhaps was, which is why you saw that big rally in Bitcoin. But this was going to happen, and this had been indicated really clearly by Tesla as well. Elon Musk, in a sense, reiterating that, but now saying it'll be available outside of America later on in 2021. And the third tweet of his, a bit technical, basically mean they're not going to convert the Bitcoins to regular currency, which basically means they're not going to sell the Bitcoins that they receive into dollars.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for having me, Nayantara. It's always a pleasure to be on your show. I think this is a part of a larger trend that we expect to see, where businesses, both big and small, will try and integrate crypto into their businesses, right? So if you look at the universe of crypto, there are money verbs. What can you do with crypto? You can hold them, and until now, that's mostly what you could do. More recently, you've been able to lend and borrow against them. You can stake them for some interest, you can spend them, you can earn them, you can trade crypto, and this is just part of the expansion of the money verb universe of what you can do with crypto. More importantly, I think this signals a larger move, as I was saying, of attracting a crypto native audience. This is a signaling move that says to anybody who holds Bitcoin that, hey, if you ever choose to spend your Bitcoin with us, we're always going to keep it as Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And that goes to show that, Bitcoin is a very valuable asset on a company's balance sheet, however big or small. And I expect this will continue in the coming months.
Okay. So Akshay, let's come to you now. You are already accepting Bitcoins in payments, I believe. We've seen others do it worldwide as well. Starbucks has talked about it, for example. But you tell us, how has that entire experience been? When did you start? And do you do it worldwide, or do you have to first wait for a country to legitimize? How does it work exactly?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Nayantara. It's a pleasure to be on the show. So, just a quick overview of what we are doing, right? What you gave was a very simplified version of what we try and do, but at the core of it, we're a consumer tech company that's personalizing skincare using computer vision and machine learning, right? And we're trying to do personalized skincare for hundreds of thousands of customers at scale. So we are a future-forward company. We are tech stack is our tech stack is our clear moat, and what we want to do is essentially we're creating the next generation of beauty company, and we want to be in the forefront of really picking up the next technology that's coming up, right? So now, coming to your question, it's actually been really seamless integrating, crypto or accepting crypto on a platform. So our front end is powered by Shopify. And Shopify already has an existing integration with Coinbase. For the ease of integration, we decided to, and for sort of saving engineering time, we decided to use Coinbase Commerce, but it's actually been fairly smooth. Just a few clicks, and you can set up your entity and you can basically start accepting crypto. So far, we primarily operate in Singapore, Australia, and US. All three markets have fairly I would say progressive regulations around accepting crypto. So it's actually been very smooth for us so far. It started on 15th of Feb, by the way. Sorry, I missed that bit.
Okay, so you started day after Valentine's Day. Now, I understand you also shipped to India. You didn't name that. So is that a very conscious decision, Shivam? You are from India. Okay, now you're an entrepreneur in East Asia and Southeast Asia. But is that also because the country hasn't legitimized it, and unless you hear from the sovereign of India, you just don't want to go down that path? And is that something that all responsible companies will be doing?
Yes, so that's a very conscious choice, and a very conscious call we had to take, right? We have to be very mindful and respective of the regulations of each of the countries that we operate in. That said, what the future holds, we definitely want to open it up for India for sure, and then other countries as well. But we have to be extremely mindful, as I said, of all the regulations. I can't really comment on other companies and what they're doing, but the best way to run a company is always to be play within the realm of what the regulations are. But you can always go and challenge them, but not really flout them.
So actually, let me ask you another question, which is that, okay, let's say I live in a country which allows Bitcoin payments. Now, whether it's a cup of coffee or it's an electric car, I as a consumer buy it with the Bitcoin holdings that I have. How does one pay tax? Whether it's sales tax, goods and services tax, VAT, whatever it is that you have in that country, and then the company which gets the Bitcoin payment, how does that company pay tax?
Yeah, so, Nayantara, this is the thing with Bitcoin. It's actually it's an asset more than it is a currency. So it's suitable only for really large value transactions. So you could buy a house maybe with a Bitcoin transaction, maybe a car. But that is the size of transaction you're looking at to really, rather than a coffee, right? In terms of tax, these transactions are all tracked on a ledger. And in countries where it's regulated, it's actually regulated. These are Bitcoin that are purchased on a regulated exchange where you have to KYC the customer, and so everybody knows. The regulatory bodies have access to these exchanges that are well lit with regulations that are mandated on them to take KYC of every customer. And so you will be able to track transactions being made by folks who are using that Bitcoin that they have purchased on these exchanges in exchange for a house or a car or any other transaction that they may use it for. The predominant use case continues to be hodling. And as I said earlier, this is really an important signaling move that Tesla is endorsing the entire Bitcoin, the network as a whole, not just Bitcoin, the asset. And that's why you will see in his second tweet, he says Tesla is also running nodes, which means nodes are essentially computers that can that are decentralized, that can independently verify transactions and keep a copy of the blockchain. So they're participating in keeping up the network and keeping the network health up as well.
Actually, the other question is, and that's the third tweet that you had Elon Musk saying that they're not going to convert it to fiat currency, which basically means they're going to retain the Bitcoin. Now, if you're going to have people buy high-value items with Bitcoins, and you're not going to see the receiver of the Bitcoins converted to regular currency or divested or whatever, what is that going to mean for the price of this asset for the cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so the regulations in the US are further along where you're allowed to make transactions in Bitcoin, and the price at which you made the transaction is counted as your basis for any taxation, right? So that's in the US. And it depends on where India goes with this, but there are ways to kind of do that. But the price is headed in one clear direction if this continues to be a trend, because if companies hold it on their balance sheet and don't sell, then the amount of supply of Bitcoin, which is already finite, is going to dwindle very fast. And the only way for us to meet the growing demand for this asset is for the price to go up. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the price ended up anywhere between $100,000 and $200,000 in a year or a couple of years from now.
$200,000 is your forecast for a Bitcoin. Okay. Let me come back to you, Shivam. You introduced this concept of Bitcoin payments from countries that would allow it from February the 15th. It hasn't really been that long, just a little over a month. What's the experience been like? Can you give me a little sense of maybe how many people have used this option? What's it been like? Has it been easy to carry out the transaction?
There are two parts to it, so I'll break it down. In terms of us opening up cryptocurrency and sort of accepting that, it's still pretty early for us, still about a month or so. So the numbers are still, I would say, in low single digits. But that is very, for any new payment channel that we would add, that is fairly acceptable, and also sort of that we would expect as well. What we do expect in coming months, that numbers to pick up as we really start promoting it within our user base. So yeah, it's been pretty early, but in terms of the ease of really paying through the platform is actually really seamless. It takes a couple of clicks, you get a notification on your app, and then you can go ahead and make the transaction.
Is it more seamless than regular currency? Is it equally seamless? Is it less seamless?
I would say it's not as fast as the current systems are, but that said, it can definitely be a lot faster than all the other systems as well, for sure. It's still pretty early days for transactions to start happening on this platform in terms of businesses accepting it and really making it something that business start accepting it online. But that said, we do see this becoming a lot more seamless in coming months.
Actually, I want to ask you one question before I have to wrap up this conversation right now, because the way the Bitcoin price is going up, maybe you've seen companies around the world talk about it, but there will come a time when you'll have a digital dollar. We in India are talking about a digital rupee. Isn't this going to really complicate things for companies that are shipping their items and services around the world? Like suddenly it's not just going to be about a currency that, okay, you just exchange into your home country, but suddenly deal with all these new creatures and new kinds of cryptocurrencies as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we are entering an age of global monetary competition, right? Especially for cross-border transactions. In India, I think the great part is India is so far ahead in payments technology with India Stack and UPI and things like this, that I do expect that the digital dollar will do exceptionally well for domestic transactions, and it will be complemented by crypto for any international transactions. And so that's how I really see this, and we've written a lot of articles around this over the last couple of months or so. But we see the digital dollar as complementary to crypto assets like Bitcoin or Ethereum, And as these networks develop, they will be the neutral rails for conducting international transactions between India and anywhere else that businesses can benefit from. And so that's what we are excited about. And you can expect a small shopkeeper or an MSME operation in India raising money from a Japanese investor through crypto DeFi markets. And that is the ultimate, a fruition of this technology, to be able to bring credit easily to people who otherwise may not have had access through the traditional financial system.
So if India doesn't legitimize the bitcoins or other cryptocurrencies other than the digital rupee, what is it going to mean, Akshay?
Well, we feel confident that the government is going to come out with some progressive regulation. But if they do choose to ban short of banning the internet itself, it's impossible to actually ban people from transacting in crypto, right? So all it's going to do is take these transactions from exchanges that could have been regulated into an underground market where people are transacting peer-to-peer, meeting at the square and exchanging coins and things like this, which only increases, tax avoidance, or it makes it dangerous as well for them to do this. And so we're much more in favor of this being regulated and having exchanges that enforce KYC requirements from customers who purchase it, so everything can be tracked and traced should you need to, both for taxation as well as for law enforcement.
Right. Shivam and Akshay, I'd like to thank both of you for joining us live right here on this edition of Startup Central. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on today's episode. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short commercial break. On the other side, we're going to talk about SPACs. You're going to see perhaps the first SPAC from an Indian venture capital firm, a blank check worth over $200 million. That is, of course, the biggest craze you have in Silicon Valley at the moment. We'll be talking about that after this break.